first edition of the Ryan Report. I'm agronomist Ryan Becker. So today's video is going to concentrate on what these high overnight temperatures that we had during the latter half month of July, how I think it impacted our corn crop. So we're going to start off by looking at the examples of, hey, what have the last 4 years worth of Julys looked like for the latter half of the month? So as you see up on screen, I've got, from the 2021 through 2024, an overall trend that for the most part is shown we've had, cooler than normal latter parts of the month. But whenever you compare that to 2025, you can see that we have definitely stepped it up the heat this year with our low overnight temperatures, where we had 10 out of 13 days, something like that, where we were definitely up over 70 degrees. And that 70 degrees is critical because anytime we're over 70 degrees as an overnight temp, we know that that is an additional stressor on corn. Now, why is that important to know? Because whenever we add stress during corn, the more rapidly that we progress through our growth stages, and thus during grain fill, a compressed time frame. So less time to add weight into the kernels is obviously not ideal for trying to achieve the highest optimum grain yield. Now, the good news is that we still have August to go, so we still have at least 20 to 30 days for the majority of this crop to go through grain fill, depending on where we're at. So if we look at those the last 4 years, you can see August for the most part also trended a little bit cooler, whereas 2021 we were definitely slightly above average. Thus far, we're only a week and a day into the August timeframe here in 2025, but so far we've trended definitely behind pace. So. But we do have some heat returning here. So just wanted to level set where we were at. Now, how did it impact the crop? So I've got examples of 20970 up on the screen from about a 30-mile radius bordering the Douglas to Champaign County lines. So I've got planting dates of it on April 18th, April 28th, and May 10th. So the first year that I'll throw up here on the screen is April 18th. You can see 16 around. It went right around 30, 32 long. Minimal tip back on this, so I think it was far enough along during its development stage. We were into that milk stage to the latter parts of it, that when we had all those days in a row, we were far enough along that the ear was not going to give a kernel number. So I think if we did have an impact here, it was more than likely on kernel weight. As we go to the next planting date, that April 28th, we can see also 16 around, and now you really start to notice tip back on this here. I will note, as you look at this photo, this was the one that obviously had the highest kernel numbers, so the most optimum conditions, where it set ears that easily could have been 40 to 45 long if conditions, continued to be optimal. However, it was probably closer, or definitely in that blister stage whenever this duration of heat hit, and thus the plant's first thought whenever they're starting to experience that level of stress was, I need to start sacrificing some of these kernels. So I'm hoping that this April 28th date, we're sacrificing the kernels, but hopefully we will leave weight alone. The last planting date is May 10th. You can see it didn't set as long of kernels per row as the April 28th. However, you do see some tip back on this as well. So I think this is that critical, somewhere from that April 28th, through May 10th. I think we will see the most kernel abortion on our ears. If you planted before or after, I think you will see less kernel abortion. So then the $1 million question then is, all right, well, where are we going to settle up at in terms of our, the visible factor of kernel weight, pounds per bushel, that sort of thing. In the last 3 years, I think we've been averaging, whenever we've been split applying nitrogen and fungiciding, we've easily been 60 to 65,000 pounds per bushel here in East Central Illinois. I do think with April, that mid-April stuff, my guess is we're not going to touch that 60 to 65 just because we did compress the schedule some. So I feel like with it being compressed, we're probably, hopefully starting out 65, more than likely 70 to 75,000 pounds per bushel range. The end of April, at April 28th through the 10th and later, I have higher hopes that can be better, just because I feel like it was able to sacrifice kernels and thus was not as heavily into the linear growth stage of kernel fill per day. And so I'm hoping that the kernel weights on those will be less affected. So as of right now, we still got a lot of year to go for the later planted stuff, but if we're just doing the math equation, it's the one that has the most yield potential still to go, but it obviously still has the longest calendar date left for this to happen. But just wanted to quickly put this video together to go through kind of what I'm seeing across planting dates and how hybrids that overset their kernel number, the ones that were flexier 16, 18s and really went in length, they were more apt to give it up, whereas ones that were maybe hovered closer around the 14 round, more determinate styles, they seem to hold on to it a little bit better. So with that, I'll wrap up this video, and I thank you for your time.